What's your philosophy about people? So how do you get the right people to work for you? I say this because my experience with your team, you have some very loyal people, committed, excellent people who work very hard.
Yes.
How did you make them that way, or you found them?
It's a combination, right? So we're looking for people who are smart, who are driven, who buy into our vision and the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. And when they get here, we treat them with respect. And, one of the things that's very important to me is that everybody should understand how they fit into the larger mission.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not an idea I came up with myself. I'd read a book about some of these great cathedrals that have been built in Europe, some of which took hundreds of years to build. And you would read about people who are masons laying bricks. That's what they do. They lay bricks. Okay. And you'd ask them, what is your job? And their answer would be, I'm building a cathedral. They don't say, I'm laying bricks. They're building a cathedral. So that tells you that they understand the larger picture of what you're trying to accomplish. And that's what motivates them. And so we try to have a team that is like that. We are educating the future leaders of our country. It is a very serious mission, right? We're not just teaching a course or painting a building or fixing furniture or organizing events. We are here to create an environment and provide a service that is quite literally going to affect the future of our country. And if your team really truly thinks like that, you see a very different level of engagement within the members of that team.
Culture is something you can't see physically, but you can perceive.
You can feel it.
So how do you know? And my mind is moving in many ways because I can sense a certain culture when I enter. There's excellence, and you see it in the ambience. There's respect. I don't see people talking over each other. So in asking questions, people raise their hand. So there's sort of respect. I didn't hear a lot of shouting.
Right.
I didn't hear a lot of shouting. And yet there was vibrancy in the room. And then I see a bit of egalitarianism where everybody's queuing for their food, including the president.
Right.
So even though you are the boss, I didn't discern your power when you entered the room, I didn't see people scatter.
Right.
But there was a difference.
Right.
So this is what I perceive. It's taking you 20 years to do this. Let's come to a country.
Yeah.
And let's use the analogy you did. So Kwame Nkrumah started, probably he was you are the Kwame Nkrumah of Ashesi. All right. But now people who followed Nkrumah, the culture is getting set. So it's going to be very difficult. So I'm trying to basically say, maybe our national political leaders have a much tougher job than we think, in terms of there is a certain way of doing things and thinking which has been calcified over maybe 60 years. And we expect them to change the country in 4 years. Maybe we have to manage our expectations.
Yes and no. So I've been talking to somebody who visits Benin quite a lot. And when she describes to me what is happening in Benin today, under a leader who's been there, I think 6 years, it is just phenomenal, right? Within 6 years, Benin is moving in a very energetic way, like more energetically than Ghana. They have far fewer resources. They have a much smaller market. They don't speak a language that is a language of global commerce. And yet they're moving. I don't know if you've been to Kigali, to Rwanda. I've been to Rwanda maybe 5 or 6 times. Most of the time I was in Kigali on one visit. we went out into the rural areas, and it is very impressive how energetically Rwanda is moving. I would say that I see advances there that I don't see here in Ghana. Now, how does one achieve that? I mean, you could say that in the case of Rwanda, they had a major national crisis, and a leader emerged out of that, who had a certain force of personality and certain power to move the needle. But that's not what's happening in Benin. It's democratically elected government. And they're executing sort of within that same kind of regime that we have here. I think it starts with who are the people who are around the political leaders, the presidency. We have a proverb actually that says that there's no such thing as a bad chief. What you have, but you can have bad advisors. And I partly agree with that. I think that a chief that surrounds himself with bad leaders has been a bad leader. Okay. But a chief that surrounds himself with good advisors has been a good leader, and those advisors then help great leadership. And so the way I look at this, on the one hand, I'm driving a culture at Ashesi, but everybody who works here, or most of the people who work here, were educated not at Ashesi. And they've worked at other companies that had different cultures. So they've come with some of them had come with a different mindset. And if you really want to change things, you have to hold the people around you accountable to begin with. You have a team of, say, 10 people. Those 10 people have certain things they're supposed to execute, and you hold them accountable to it. And they hold the next line accountable, and they hold the next line accountable. So leaders can always make change. Now, some change will take time, but if you don't start making that change now, then it never happens.